Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my weekly reading update for July 16th in 2023. So we're halfway through the month. How did we get here already? So weird. Anyway, so this has been a good reading week. It was a long week at work because it was, we had to work all 5 days. It was kind of up and down for me. I made a few, not mistakes, but I learned a few things that I need to be better about. And then also, something changed in my job that I was hoping that they would never give me, that they finally gave me. So darn it, more work for me. But other than that, everything else is pretty much normal. Nothing really happened. So I don't much have anything. I did yesterday go and hang out with, one of my friends had a barbecue. So I went over to their house and was there, like from 2 to almost 8 o'clock. And luckily they had shade because it was 95 degrees here in Portland. It's hot. Anyway, so luckily they had a tent up, so I was okay. So I stayed out of the sun. There was only about a 10-minute time when they were showing off their garden that I was out in the sun. So I'm hoping I won't break out. So far, so good. We'll see what happens. So anyway, beyond that, it's just been a quiet week. Cooper's here, who has a new habit of trying to wake me up in the morning. He gets behind my head on my pillow, and then he starts either trying to not claw, but kind of knead on my shoulder, or he licks my forehead. It's his new thing. You think he'd not want to do that, but no, he wants to get me up so I could feed him, even though they have food. Anyway, okay, that's it. Anyway, that's my intro. Anyway, so again, as I said, I did pretty good reading this week. I did have another moment of switching my reading up, which is what my mood reading is like. I actually did a video on this week about rereading, which if you want to see that, I'll have it linked down below. I really enjoyed that video, just talking about my rereading, because as I said, here on BookTube, it's not... I mean, people reread, but I feel like I'm one of those people who reread more than most people because I just have to do it. So anyway, so my rereading started, but I knew it was happening. So anyway, we'll go through that when we get there. Because, well, again, the first book I'm going to talk about is a reread, but it's a classic reread. So of course, I finished Persuasion by Jane Austen. I'm doing this for Jane Austen July. Jane Austen July is put on by Katie. Is put on by Katie at Books and Things, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia at Spinster's Library. So, as I said, I was going to hold off on both my Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion rereads until later in the month, but I just couldn't. So I did Pride and Prejudice in the middle of last week, and then the end of that week into the first part of this week. This last week that I reread Persuasion. Again, it's Pride and Prejudice is still my favorite, but Persuasion is really, 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 really close. They're close 1 and 2 of my favorites. So anyway, so I don't need to talk too much about this. Again, Jane Austen July is mostly you're just supposed to read anything Jane Austen and you're participating. So you can check out their channels to know more about it. But I do this every July. I always say, okay, I'm not going to do too much reading this year. I'm going to just do a couple things, and then I always have a week or two where I read a lot of stuff related to Jane Austen, which I did continue into that. So, but I finished my reread of Persuasion. So I did enjoy that. So I'm not gonna talk too much about that because it's classic wise, but I just love that. And then on a whim, did I start this last week? Did you guys see me start this? I don't remember, but I picked up a memoir of Jane Austen and Other Family Recollections by James Edward Austen Lee. So I've had this on my shelf for a couple of years. So this is what the family of Jane Austen put out over 50 years after her death. And so it's her nieces and nephews. There's a couple things from her brother Henry, 2 short essays about her that he wrote, one really close after her death, and then another one about 10 or 15 years later, where he revised it. But the big one is the one by James Edward Austen Lee. So he was one of the he was her oldest brother's, James, one of his children. So, the one boy. And then he got his two sisters, Anna, his half-sister Anna, and, Caroline, his full sister, I think. I think that's how it goes. I'm not quite sure. They're all related. They're all related to James. But they so they have those two recollections in here. So they have little essays that they wrote up. And then he used their information as well as what Henry had written about, and then stuff that he knew about because he was not super old when Jane passed away. So I don't mean he was old, like he remembered her and everything like that. It's just, it was many years later, of course. So he has his sisters and his uncles, what they wrote on her, and then he built this memoir. So it was a really interesting memoir because I hadn't realized how much has been pulled from this, from both the sisters and him, their paper. What he put from there, he pulled a lot of stuff that they talked about and put in here and referenced that. And then all the Jane Austen, biographies I've read or things connected to Jane Austen have mentioned this memoir or biography of Jane Austen from her family. And it's really interesting because how much of this I already knew, but from a context in another book, even though I knew it came from this book, I hadn't, by getting to see how he pulled from his sisters into the thing, and then how I can see other books have pulled from this to put into their books. It was like seeing the foundations of how that, how much of our knowledge of Jane Austen, where it came from these family papers and stuff. So I thought it was really interesting. I'm glad I did read this. I was really intimidated to read it, and I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's because I just felt it would be weird to read a biography on they wrote a biography 50 years after she was gone. They didn't write it sooner, but again, they didn't, because her popularity grew after she was gone. So I did really enjoy it. I think again, I don't think this is for everybody. Again, it is from 1870 and 71. He had first edition and second edition. So they used parts of the first edition and parts of the second edition, because he does change a few things from each edition, but overall it's mostly the same. As I said, I found it interesting to get the sisters, their paper or their recollections, and their stories about her, and how much he used to build his story of it, or his biography of Jane Austen in here. It was really interesting. I'm glad I read it. I wish I'd maybe read it a little sooner before I'd read so many other things about her. But I also think it's neat to go, as I said, it was interesting to come back and learn where all that, all the, what do you want to say? What I was say, quotes and things that I've read in other books had come from. So anyway, I think it's a really good one to read if you are interested in what the family put out as stuff about Jane Austen. But again, you will read a lot of this stuff within other biographies. I just think it was interesting to get their words and their books read, that I could now, I can see where that information came from. I guess it's the origin of a lot of the things about Jane Austen. The notes in here were fantastic. Talking about the things that he got right and wrong on certain things that we do know about, and then where the sisters, maybe what they wrote and stuff on stuff. Everybody had the notes were good for the Oxford edition. Anyway, I'm glad I read that finally. I can't say that it was the most enjoyable read, because it was still took me some time, but I am glad that I read that. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I finished The Social Life of Books, Reading Together in the 18th Century Home by Abigail Williams. So again, this is a book I had on my 6 nonfiction books I wanted to read this year. So I picked this up a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, about the social life of books from the 18th century. And I knew that this was the time period when people were reading aloud to each other a lot. So I wanted to see what it had to say. I think this was a really it's a dense nonfiction in the way that there's a lot of examples and a lot of name dropping of people, and their notes there are tons and tons of notes that, again, I didn't even really look at, because mostly it's just referencing where they got that quote, and so they weren't like informational notes. Most of them were just saying where Abigail Williams got those quotes from. But it was really interesting to see why how reading changed in the century and books were perceived. And again, I tabbed part of the where, you know, it's talking about how dangerous reading, letting young women mostly reading on their own, because they could take what the book said wrong, and it could give them wrong expectations for life. And I'm laughing. Okay. So the reason they were reading out loud is so that the parents could read out loud to their young adults, and you know, kind of mold them to what they should be getting out of the written a novel or sermons or something, and be able to talk about it and be able to tell them what they're supposed to be thinking. I mean, I get it, but I'm also like, oh my Lord. Anyway, so there's a couple times where I talked about that, but mostly that was just in the beginning. I think this, I got to a point where near the end, I was just kind of like, well, I didn't like the one on verse so much because I don't read much poetry, so that didn't do a whole lot for me. They talked about dramas and theater and how that related to books and reading out loud. I think this was a really interesting book. I think this is very niche in looking at the 18th century and how reading was involved. There is some stuff in here that actually crosses into this is the 1700s, sorry, and it they pull a little bit of the 1800s, the first couple decades. She would pull a quote sometimes from 1805 or 1815 or something, and it was people who had lived in the 1700s, but you know, they were older when they had written something about something else, you know, that she was talking about. But I think it was mostly concentrated on the 1700s, and mostly in England, and talking about how you know, it started where people would read and how they had books on how to read to each other and stuff. It was really interesting, very niche. I don't think everybody's gonna like this. It was written, as I said, very, I would say, kind of densely, because it felt very academic. This was put out by Yale University Press. So, I feel that there was, it felt very academic in the way that the notes were put in, as I said, in the many quotes and stuff. She gave a lot of examples. I think it was good. It's just, I got tired of it after, you know, over 200 pages of it, because this is like 270 pages for the book itself. And then there's a lot of notes in the back, or, you know, for them. But again, as I said, mostly it's just telling where she got that quote or whatever. So not as much information. Like this one had more details and things like that kind of in their notes, and this one was just more where the quote came from. I don't know if it makes a difference to you. To me, I don't care about this one so much as for note wise. I don't. Okay, I'm not making sense. Anyway, so I did enjoy this. I'm glad I read it. As I said, I can't say I would recommend this to anybody unless they're very interested in how books were thought of, and how they were thought of in the home, and in public, and in, you know, as I said, in verse and in theater and novels and stuff during this time period. Because it was really interesting of the things that changed during that century on how people looked at books and how they related to the family. I just thought it was really interesting, and I'm glad I read it for, and again, I read it for Jane Austen July. I started a little bit early, but I read it for Jane Austen July because she was born in the 18th century. So, I mean, it was only 25 years, but it was still there. She was still there. Anyway, so I did get those done, and those are all the ones I finished this week for Jane Austen July. So about, was it Wednesday, Thursday? I don't remember what day. I think it was Thursday. I don't remember whatever day it was that I kind of cracked, and I did that video on rereading. Is I had started my reread of the Side Changing series. I decided not to, I mean, I wasn't planning to do a lot of the rereading, but I always say, oh, I'm just going to read a few books before the new book comes out. What is it called? Resonance, no, is that Resonance Surge? I think is the name of the new book, and it's coming out on Tuesday. So I will be reading that this week, just FYI. When that hits my Kindle, I'll be reading that. So I went back and started in the Side Changing series where Trinity starts, which is the second half of the series, the second season of kind of the book. So this is book 16 and my favorite book of the whole series. And I had to start here because, again, I reread this every year, at least once, sometimes twice. So I started with this one. So I listened to the audiobooks. I have them that are performed by Angela Daw, she does a really great job, and she does the whole series. So Silver Silence, of course, is the one with the bears. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. Anyway, so this again is a paranormal urban fantasy series, kind of set in the future just a little bit, where there are people with psychic abilities, shifters, and humans who are all vying for power. And the first half, or the first 15 books of this series is kind of had this whole arc of things that were happening as, the three were vying for power, and things that went, that changed within the world. And then now we're in the aftermath of how them trying to save one of the, save the ones who have the psychic abilities, because things are in danger. And so they just build and build. And again, it's a great series overall, just fun. Again, there's almost all the books except for one are, they're a different couple, but the books all build on each other, because it's just the world is just fantastic. Again, it's my favorite series to reread, and I've read them so many times. So anyway, I of course started my reread of Silver Silence and finished that I think Friday. So I think a Thursday and Friday, I think I listened to this, and I really, really enjoyed being back in the world and being with my favorite characters. Friday night, I had two manga, or, well, they're graphic novel, I guess. Well, one of them is manhwa, or however you say that word, for Korean colored stuff. So I did try A Business Proposal by Honark, or adapted by Perella. Original story by Hajima. Anyway, so I haven't read any of these ones before, but this one I saw on somebody's channel. Maybe I just saw a picture of it, and then I saw it at Barnes & Noble and thought, well, I'll get it and see what it's like. And it's a colored graphic work, and I think they're called manhwa. I don't know. I don't do much with the Korean stuff, so I don't know anything about this. So this is following a woman who her best friend asks her to go on this blind date as her, so that, because she didn't want to go on any more blind dates that her one of her relatives puts her up for. And so she goes and she meets this guy, and he is turns out to be her CEO, and that she works for. So she, now there's a problem, because she works in the same company as he does, but she's playing this other person, and he is set on marrying her, trying to marry her, because he just wants to be done with the whole, he doesn't want to do any more blind dates. He doesn't want to have to deal with all this. He just wants to get married, and so people will stop bothering him, and he's done his job. But he's a CEO who has no time for anything. And so it was a madcap first volume of the story. I definitely will continue. I didn't love it or anything. I don't love these characters. I'm interested to see what happens when he finds out he finds out who she is, because again, she does work for him and stuff. And there was some tense moments there. He's she dressed up in a wig, so he hasn't quite comprehended that he's seen her both ways. Anyway, it's like a funny one. It's not one that I'm not jumping to go get that. I just meant it. I think the next volume comes out in August. So when my library gets it, I will probably get that. I think that volume just came out in May. So I was one of the first on the list. And then I did try another one, but I'm I didn't finish it just to put it out there, is Sasaki and Miyano by Shu Harusono. So I'd heard really good things about this on a few people's channels that read more the BL of the boys love volumes. I just didn't care. It was just I got partway through it. I'm like, I'm bored. So that didn't work for me. I think it's really cute, the drawings and stuff, but it's just not for me. I guess this one worked for me, even though this is contemporary, is because it was really action and it was goofy and it was, you know, people going ballistic all the time all over the place. So it was more entertaining. Ooh, whoops. As I dropped that, sorry. This one just, there was nothing going on and it was just kind of humdrum and very slice of life, but like just very slow. Oh, I messed that up. Sorry about that. Anyway, so that's, yeah. So it's not, I'm just going to take it back to the library. So just, that was my 1 DNF this week. I'm not like counting it on anything. I'm just saying it just didn't work for me, which happens. So after I finished Silver Silence, I started Alpha Night, which is book 19. So I skipped a couple of books in this series because I don't have enough time between now and when the new book comes out. So I was trying to plan it where I finish the books in between when book 22 comes out. Yes, that's right. Because this is 19. So Alpha Night is another one of my favorites. So I really enjoyed revisiting this one, also on audio by Angela Daw. So I read that pretty quickly. I read some of it at work and in the evening, and then I finished it Saturday morning. So I'm not going to go through, but again, I just love this series. We all know this. And then yesterday, I read in its entirety on audio Last Guard, which is book 20 in the Side Changeling series. So this one I listened to partly in the morning and then a little bit in the afternoon when I was making my taco salad for the barbecue. And then I got home from the barbecue and I finished it out. I just played Happy Color as it played. Anyway, I really enjoyed rereading this one as well. This again is book 20. So you know that. So talking about the books I'm in the middle of course, I'm in book 21, which is the one that came out last year. So Storm Echo is the one I'm rereading right now on audio. I'm only 40 pages in from this morning from going to get coffee and stuff. So this one I'm hoping to finish tomorrow. And if I have time, I might go back and read one of the other two that I skipped over. But I might not. I might just stop it here. I have plenty of other audiobooks I can listen to. I don't need to keep re-listening to stuff. But this was the one from last year. So I think I've reread this only one other time. I think so. So this will be my second reread. So anyway, so it's pretty good. Anyway, so as I said, I'm going to read this today and tomorrow and hopefully get it done. Because again, for me at 9 o'clock at night on Monday, the new Nalini thing should drop. So on my Kindle. So I want to make sure I'm at least caught up. If I go back and listen to the other one, I might still do that. But I will have that on Kindle. The book 22. So anyway, that's again what I'm going to read. But anyway, so I just started this reread. I do have from my library Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. I did read this a little bit one day, and then I decided to go into reading the Side Changing series. So I do have this to come back to. As I said, I was rereading the Dark Olympus series before the next book comes out. Cruel Seductions, I think that's in August sometime. But anyway, this is book 3 in the Dark Olympus series. So I have read this last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. Yes, last year. So I'm hoping, as I said, I'm just rereading it on audio from the library. So I still have it for a couple weeks, so I'm not worried. I'll get to it at some point, but I just want to point it out. I did start the audio. I have a lot of audios on the go that I've started and stopped. The Mysteries of Udolpho, because again, this print is teeny tiny, like teeny tiny. Anyway, so I did start on audio and I got a little ways. I just can only listen to it a little bit here and there. So this is a book that probably will not get finished in July unless there's 1 week where I just feel like reading it. Right now I'm into my side changeling mode, so it's probably not going to be this next week, but maybe the last week of the month I will be able to work on this. This is again a classic from 1794 by Anne Radcliffe, and again every year I read one for Jane Austen July, so I have this one and one other left. I picked the big one this year because I wanted to get through it, but now I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Anyway, because it's like 600 pages. But I do want to get through this year. It's on one of my classics I want to read this year, so I am going to work on this. It's just, I needed a little, I took a break from it to do all my side changeling rereading. I will, hopefully, come back to Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I have not finished this reread. Again, I'm listening to a cast audio on Audible Plus. I think has Emma Thompson as the narrator as part of it, but then it's a cast people talking. She just, her part's small, but I meant it's okay. Northanger Abbey is not one of my favorites, and I was really hoping this time around I would enjoy it more, and I think I'm still meh on it. It's just not for me. I love Gothic novels. I think because this is a satire of one, it just isn't working for me. Is it Caroline? Oh, no, Catherine. Sorry, Catherine Morland. She is just a teenager. Like, it's hard for me. So, I will finish this before the end of the month. I just haven't got back to it. I just need to, I'll get back to it. And then, I did start this, but I haven't started the main part of the book. And again, I have a slipcase because this is a some book club, edition. I can't remember. I bought these 2 or 3 years ago. The Heritage Press. So this is, let's see here. I'll just show this picture. Is The Life of Samuel Johnson by, oops, I'm going to drop my thing. Sorry. By James Boswell. So I bought this. I'm just interested in this biography written back in, or published in 1791 about Samuel Johnson, who, I mean, the thing I know about him is that he made the dictionary, the first, or made a version of the dictionary that is still partly used today, you know, stuff that he did. So, and then he wrote a lot of other stuff, essays and other works and stuff, but I've never read anything by him, but it was always very interesting. But I knew that this biography is one of the older ones that is supposed to be one of the best, and I've just never read it. And so I got a 3-book collection of it because it's a massive book. I mean, it's like over 1,000 pages for the whole thing. So anyway, I have the three sections, and but it's really interesting because it also has little notes from his a woman that that Johnson was really close to in her family. Was it Madam or Mrs. Thorell was her name before, and then she married someone else, so she is P.O.C., I think. And then because after her husband died, then she remarried several years later, I think. Anyway, but her notes are in here too, so it like will, so it's going to be kind of like seeing both, what she agreed with Boswell and what she didn't. Anyway, but I haven't started the actual his work yet. I just read the introduction because I didn't know enough about Samuel Johnson or James Boswell or Mrs. Piazzo. So it was interesting to read about that. I mean, I just need to get a little bit more context. And again, I bought this on vacation one year when I was looking for the big massive, Oxford or Penguin edition. And then this was just, I got it for the same price as the three volumes I got for the same price as I would have had to buy one of those really big Penguin editions. So anyway, so I'm going to try to read this. This is not a book I'm going to finish right away, or the whole thing. I'm hoping to just finish this edition, this section of it, because it's 460 pages. I'm hoping to finish this year sometime. If I finish it earlier, like in the year, and then I can start another one, that's great. But this is not what I'm planning to finish anytime soon. I think it's going to be one where I read only 10, 15 pages a day at the most, and maybe not every day. It's just whenever I feel like it. But I want to keep it by me and just kind of make progress on it. But again, I don't know yet how I feel about this because I haven't actually read the Boswell part yet. So, or his the actual biography. I've read 40, I think I read 50 some pages. That was all introduction. So I've done that part first. So now I'm going to start the actual biography. So I don't know. It's kind of a book in progress anyway. And then really quick, two other things I might read this week after the new Nillingi Singh book is if I'm still feeling in the Jane Austen mood to read one more nonfiction. I do have The Genius of Jane Austen by Paula Byrne. This one is, the subtitle is Her Love of Theater and Why She Works in Hollywood. So I read the introductions so far because she had two editions. She published this first over a dozen years ago or something. It says Jane Austen and the Theater or something. And then when her other book came out, Jane Austen in Small Things, or however that one goes, they published another one. They republished this because she had done that with a small press. And so they issued this one, and then she made updates to it. So anyway, I heard a lot of people reading this last year. I think it was last year. Yeah. And so I got this not great used copy, but point is if I still feel like reading more Jane Austen stuff, I will maybe get to that one this year. If not, that'll hold for next year. And then I got in from the library, The Sandman Volume 3. So I want to continue reading this graphic novel this year. So I'm hoping to get to this. I have this, as I said, for the next couple weeks. So I will try to at least get it started, hopefully in the next couple days. I may not finish it this week, but I'm going to try to get try to read it here and there so that I don't have the last couple days before it's due that I'm trying to read it all at one time, because that was way too much last time when I did that. So that is everything at this point. I admit I've been buying a bit more books than I should have, that I should be, but I also want to go to Barnes & Noble today because the triple stamps are still on for the Premier members. So I might go to Barnes & Noble today before I hit the library to drop off the books I've read and pick up a couple that have come in. So we'll see what I do today. I'm not quite sure. Beyond that, I'm going to try to get up my stats update or goals update for the second quarter, or the half of the year pretty much is kind of mid-year stats. And then I might do a video on series, on where I stand on, like, not all the series that I can't even count that anymore. I have, many series on the go, but I want to talk about the ones that I have tried this year, started, and either which ones I've completed, which ones I need to work on, which ones I have decided not to continue on. I might do a video on that too this week. If not, that'll be next week. Well, I don't know. We'll see how much I can get done. But that's kind of where I'm at. So anyway, what are you guys reading? How is your reading going? Are you guys participating in Jane Austen July? Or are you going rogue like me and just going all over the place? I mean, I knew that when the date for the Nillingi Singh, and again, I've had that book pre-ordered for months, that I knew that I wouldn't be able to stop myself from starting my rereads before it. I was kind of hoping I wouldn't this year. No, I had to do it. So again, I got through 3 of them. I'm in the middle of the 4th one, and then maybe I'll go back and do another one if I have time, but we'll be fine. We'll be good. So that's it. Hope you guys are all doing well. Let me know what you're reading, and I will talk to you guys later. Did you almost fall off? Poor kitty. He wants me to go sit on the couch. Bye.